Hi everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. This is a horror movie show from Mild Fuzz. I'm Peter, and this fella with the new haircut is Tim Vergilish.
Ugh, I wish I had a gavel right now. I could just bang it. I could bang that gavel.
Also, you can't
Say,
see him on the screen, but you might be able to hear the purring just slightly. One of my cats, Firefly, is on my lap, and he's quite comfortable, so I'm not going to force him to go away. But I'm just letting you know that soothing purring noise is.
it's not me for once.
It's not Tim. It's the cat. So,
Or is it?
uh, what are we talking about this week? We're talking about
Horror movies of the past.
and the present.
There you go.
This one's this one's kind of. I'd say this is more the present than the past. It's I mean, it's 2014. That's recent enough that I still refer
Yeah.
to that as the present.
Well,
So,
it's like they say, as the past, so the present.
delightful hint there, Tim. Very good, very good. I'm never going to crack that code. So yeah, we're going to be talking about a found footage horror film called As Above, So Below. Came out in 2014. It's directed by John Erick Dowdle. Dowdle is a hell of a last name. I approve of it greatly. And yeah, so we're going to talk about this. And as always, we're going to start off spoiler free, and we'll give you a warning before jumping into the spoilers. First thing I want to say about this, Tim,
Okay.
is that last week, so we have a rough idea of some movies we want to do sort of in a
Right.
long term sort of way, but typically we'll record the new episode, or right now we're doing 2 episodes per week, so we record the 2 episodes, and then we say, right, that's what we're doing for next week, and we'll have a bit of thought, and we'll look at what we had kind of on the rough schedule and say, right, we'll do this one, or we'll do these two, or whatever. When we picked this last week, neither of us knew it was found footage.
No.
Had
I think
had I known that, I might not have picked it. I'm not gonna lie.
I think like 2 seconds in, I was like, "Oh shit!" And like I messaged you. I was like, get ready."
Yeah, I got a really panicked message from Tim.
Yeah.
Peter, this is found footage. What have you done? It's like, hey, you agreed to it. Don't look at me.
And it's kind of funny because it's something like I really didn't know much about it other than the name, and actually had thought it was a different movie at first. But I feel like I'd always seen it when I was like scrolling through like stuff that was available on HBO because that's how I watched it. But yeah, as soon as I started, I was like, oh no, this is not what I was thinking of. And now, and not necessarily that found footage is always a bad thing. Like we've been pleasantly surprised a couple of
Oh
times
yeah,
on the show,
there's some good ones. Yeah.
but this is just like stock by the numbers, like the shitty kind of found footage. Like,
But it tries to have its cake and eat it too,
yeah,
with having like 7 cameras.
yeah, and it's just like everything is such a cliche at this point. Like like there's a weird little starting thing, but once like the kind of main people start, they have the whole like turn on the camera for the first time and like people smiling and be like, "Ah, stop filming me, like what are you doing, like shut up." And, like, no, I gotta
Yeah,
document
it
this. And
shares a lot of beats with a lot of other found footage movies because they all have to do these same things. They all do the cameras moving so quick we only get quick glimpses of things as they're running or whatever and all that kind of thing. Um, I didn't hate it, right? I don't think this is like if you're going to give me a list of all the found footage movies, this is not in the bottom like
well,
bunch of them.
what I would say is that I was, I guess, somewhat pleasantly surprised, but I don't mean necessarily that like I liked it that much, but I guess in the beginning I thought this is gonna be utter shit, and then by the time I was done, I was like, oh, I guess it was slightly okay, you know?
I have a few positive points, a couple of which I can't really say until we get to spoilers.
Right.
But I will say this. I think the first half, maybe even the first hour, it's 90 minutes long, or like 93 minutes long. It's not a long movie. The first hour, I think, is pretty by the numbers. It's basically just found footage, not ripping off, but doing similar kind of things to The Descent with the claustrophobia stuff, because it's about a group of people who go into the catacombs under Paris. And if you're not familiar with the way Paris' sewer system works, their sewer system has an exact match to their streets. Like, this is like unique to Paris. Like their sewers are really wide. They're as wide as the streets themselves, and they match the streets identically. So if you know, like Paris, if you're someone who walks around Paris and you know the streets, you can actually find your way around down there because it's the exact same streets, lines, the exact same, you can tell which street you're on and so on. And because of that, I thought that's what the title of the movie referred to. Because I knew this, and it was as above, so below, and I'm like, all right, yeah, because that's what Paris is. The sewers are actually identical match for the streets above, and they also clean it with a giant ball thing. Don't ask me to explain it any more than that because I can't remember. But if you're in the UK,
Giant ball. What else? What other explanations needed?
and if you watch QI, this is where I know this information from. Trusting Stephen Fry. Not that he's going to be on QI anymore. He's getting replaced because he only did half the alphabet, which is really disappointing. Do all 26 seasons. Seriously, come on. Anyway, but anyway, it's not actually about that. Really, they immediately go underneath that. I think basically when they go in, and they're going down there because the main girl is determined. Well, she's Lara Croft basically. If you put a gun in her hand, she's Lara Croft because she's English. She's obsessed with finding like old relics. She raids tombs. And she's doing a lot of it because her dad did this as well, and she wants to live up to him. It's like beat for beat, all in the fact that she doesn't like wield pistols and shoot bad guys. Lara Croft, it's kind of insane.
I didn't think about it, but actually, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, now that I've said that, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And so she's going down there because she thinks she's found the location of the Philosopher's Stone, and or Sorcerer's Stone if you're in the US, I suppose. If you don't get that joke, Google the first Harry Potter movie and the change they made to the title. But
That's so ridiculous.
it is ridiculous. Yeah, they thought Americans wouldn't understand what a Philosopher's Stone was because sorcerer is a much more equally used word.
I guess, yeah. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, so they go down because they think they're going to find this stone and possibly treasure, and they get a little ragtag group of people. Mostly, half of them are French because they're in France, obviously, and they get stuck in places. They get lost, can't find their way out, and that's not a spoiler. That's obviously where the movie's going. That's the basic premise, and then obviously they go deeper and find more things and whatever. First hour, yeah, I'm eventually getting to my point here. I went on a whole thing explaining the plot. First hour, really by the numbers. And then a couple of things happened that I think really started to make it interesting. And it made me wish for a couple of things. One made me wish this wasn't found footage.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me wish the first hour wasn't just basically doing, oh no, we can't find... Because this is a genuine problem with this movie. It all fucking looks the same. Everything is just dark and there's rocks and cameras are shaking around. It just all feels the same. There's no sense of place because you can never really tell where they are.
Yeah.
It's really kind of just dull to watch in that sense. It's not visually interesting.
And it again falls into kind of I feel like at this point is a little bit of a found footage trope where it's just people arguing about being lost and what direction to go in and that sort of thing.
That goes all the way back to Blair Witch.
Yeah.
All the way back there. It's how do we get out? Where do we go? Or possibly something supernatural stopping us because we could have sworn we came this way, but now there's no way back.
I thought you knew where you were going. Oh well, I did. This wasn't here before, and
that's a lot of really similar beats. But like I said, in the last half hour, I think it actually introduced some interesting ideas and what it was trying to allude to, which we can't really talk about without spoilers, so I'm not going to yet. And I did actually like the ending. And again, I can't say why until we get to spoilers, but let's just say it breaks a trope. It does a lot of other tropes from found footage movies, but there's one main one that I hate that they always do, that this one avoids, and I was actually really pleased when it happened.
I was pretty surprised because I was like, sure, like, I think we're on the same page, but I was like, sure, like, okay, yeah, I think I know what's coming, and then, no. But, yeah, it's weird, like, I was super bored with this at first. I was like, it's one of those things where I was just trying really hard to sit and pay attention, but like my mind kept wandering. Like, Yeah, I kept wanting to check my phone, but then there is a point where, without spoiling too much, I guess like just like kind of shit starts going down and like things start getting real weird, and I'm like, ooh, okay, I think I'm kind of into this.
Yeah,
But
I think.
then at that point, it's like a little, too little, too late.
Yeah, I like see the core idea of what they're trying to do here is actually really interesting, but there's just so much that I would have done differently. Like so
Yeah,
much. First of all, scrap the found footage. I mean, we said that. That's obvious, but there's just other
is
things I wouldn't. I mean, I'd have a completely different protagonist. A different maybe. I wouldn't have really have. I'd maybe still have a group, but it'd be a completely different type of group, and it would be
yeah
less
the
pretending it's just about getting trapped or lost for the first hour.
yeah the girl I didn't mind as much. Her like best friend or whatever guy that liked her, I wasn't really
Yeah,
that
I
into.
I didn't really dislike any of the characters really. They just weren't really that
They're just
interesting either. Yeah, they're
yeah
just
just
cardboard.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, is the whole found footage thing? Is it just like a cost thing? Is it just cheaper to do stuff that way?
Oh, it absolutely is.
Because it's like it's not like it's like I can't imagine it's that popular. I mean, at least no one I know is ever like, oh man, I just love found footage movies. I guess if it's just a thing to do it cheap and then a lot of people go see them and
Yeah,
uh,
well, it boils because the guy who directed this, John Erick Dowdle, also co-wrote it. So that
yeah,
makes it feel like he it's like a passion project for him almost if he's writing and directing.
yeah,
And I'd love to hear why the choice is made to do found footage, unless it is just purely well we couldn't afford to do it any other way.
yeah,
Which I don't know. That said though, there is things in this that would still cost a lot even in found footage. Like
yeah.
there's things where they're going through water or whatever, and there's the locations are really specific. Admittedly, you can
Mm.
fake a lot of them because it's in the dark, but
I was also kind of curious. I would like to know um, where they filmed this because at first I thought like, oh, I wonder if they were like really filming it in the
nah, I
catacombs or
imagine it'll mostly be sets. I could be. I mean, I could be wrong, but
yeah,
I think for safety, especially when you start having gaps and liquids and stuff, it's like, no, we're going to do this in a
yeah, makes
safe
sense.
environment where we can control everything.
Yeah,
Uh, and again, like most of it's in the dark, so they can really get away with a lot in terms of
yeah.
the sets. Uh, so
And it's weird that you mentioned the claustrophobia stuff because that's something that like I felt was when I first saw The Descent, I felt was like very effective. Like I saw that in the theater and those scenes of them like crawling through like these like inch wide tunnels and stuff and I like gave me a really big sense of claustrophobia and I guess there are scenes where they what looks like they're probably trying to go for something kind of similar and it just didn't really feel as effective
yeah, there's one in
in
particular where they try
this.
to do that, but it doesn't. I think it clearly shows what good direction does to a scene like that. And I
Yeah,
think, the choice to do it in found footage, so you've only got that one camera the entire time, versus if you watch the set, and I know the exact scene you're talking about in that, it's very well directed, there's multiple shots, there's, all these things going on.
mhm.
Uh,
It's kind of funny. I never really thought about it, but as we're talking about it, I kind of feel like it's easier to put yourself in someone's shoes when it's not a found footage movie. Like in a weird way, like
oh
you
no,
think it
it
would be
is.
the opposite. Like,
The problem is actually it disconnects you from what's going on
yeah,
because you start to question why are they still filming this? Why are they doing that? Because
yeah,
it's almost like being in found footage. The filmmakers think, oh, this instantly makes it feel more real, and I'm like, don't be so
yeah,
fucking arrogant. It doesn't. Like, I almost instantly get averse to it, especially when, again, doing found footage means there's all these tropes that always creep in, and I'm not necessarily going to harp too much on them because I mean I like certain
yeah.
subgenres that are full of tropes. I like slasher movies from the 80s. They're all practically the goddamn same, but
Yeah. It's just weird because like I guess like found footage it feels more like you are actually watching something because like even if it wasn't a movie if it was someone's like real thing that they filmed you would actually be watching it as opposed to when you're just watching a regular movie, you can, if it's a good movie, you can kind of get lost in it and kind of
Yeah, because you almost feel like
get
you're just
immersed.
you're in a regular film movie. You can almost become a ghost in the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
As weird as that sounds.
No,
Where,
I get you. Yeah.
whereas with found footage, you always feel like you have this disconnect because you're watching footage that's was filmed by these people.
Yeah.
And
Jeez.
then you start to question things like not necessarily in every one of them, but in a lot of them, you're like, okay, where exactly did they find this footage?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
or
Once you
you
like stop
think,
and think about it.
or in case with this one, when it's multiple cameras, like, did someone sit and edit all this together? Like, you start to
Yeah.
really question things. And the other
It's
thing that
weird.
found footage does, and this is something that bothered me in this as well, they did have a
Mhm.
little bit of music, kind of via one or two things that happen, but
Mhm.
doing found footage means there's no score, and that really
That's true.
bothers
Yeah.
me. And I feel like this idea could have really used a score.
Yeah. That actually would have helped a lot.
Um, but, it's just one of those things, and
Mhm.
I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's not gallows bad certainly.
Yeah. What I kind of thought after this is that it's a pretty good like background movie. Like like I can't imagine myself sitting down and wanting to watch this again, but if it's like maybe I'm cleaning my room or organizing stuff and it's on in the background, like it would be good to be like, you know, something that you don't need to pay attention to, but every now and again you can kind of turn your head and be like, "Oh, that's a cool scene," or that thing here.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's a middling movie. I think it's it sits in the middle. I don't want to give my rating away, but it's kind of in that middle range where it's kind of there. It's not
Yeah.
offensively bad, but it's at this point we're just tired of found footage, and it instantly is just like a yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
into this. And don't get me wrong, some of them use their found footage really well. I mean, we were all really impressed with Creep. Like Creep
Yeah,
was a
like
great example of because it fed into the plot as well. Like it
yeah.
was a really big part of it, so it was cool. Um, and at least with this one, they did set up that they're making a documentary, which I do kind of appreciate because I at least buy a lot of the circumstances to a point more when it's like a professional who's meant to be filming it. It was the
Right.
same thing in Wreck, the original
Oh
Spanish movie,
yes.
where they're filming a documentary. So I buy that this guy's trained a bit more to try, and especially when he's filming a journalist and he's maybe used to like going out and covering wars and stuff. That he's more attuned to keep filming even when shit's going down.
Yeah,
Um,
makes sense.
but nah, I don't know. So I think we'll go into spoilers now. I think
Okay.
we've wrapped up what we can do with spoiler free. So spoilers from this point on, you have been warned. We're in the spoiler crypt.
Yeah.
So uh, I do want to mention the opening. Girl goes to Iran. She sneaks in, and all this really does is tells us that she's really determined because she's doing this and it's dangerous for her.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
It was pretty unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually,
it's where she finds out that the thing's in Paris, but we literally could have just opened with the interview with her that comes after this, explaining why she's there, what she's doing.
yeah.
So
It's
that's that.
yeah, it felt weirdly placed to me because I was like, okay, so this is where we're going, and then like all of a sudden it's like there's like a total like shift because it kind of like starts off like
Well,
you
see,
think it might be like a little more intense or something, and
that
then
was the weird thing for me is that I knew it was in Paris because the poster's quite clearly the Eiffel Tower.
yeah.
So I'm just like, all right, so I guess we're in Iran for a little bit. Okay. I say Iran. It might have been a different country because she said she was crossing the Iranian border, which I guess means she could have been leaving into another place.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. So, main plot gets going. Her friend that she's into apparently sneaks into the bell tower in the middle of Paris and fixes it, even though it's not been working for 240 years, or something to that effect. That's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Are they implying that this
And
wasn't fixed just because people were lazy, didn't bother?
I don't know. Again, it's kind of like, why is this important?
Yeah, there was a
Um,
bunch of setup to them and finding out where things were. They go into they don't sneak in, but they kind of get access into the museum so they can look at the back of a tombstone thing and all sorts
yeah.
of things. Then they go and find the person that's going to help lead them down, this French guy,
Mm.
The only thing that notable that really happens during all of this section of the movie is that the camera guy sees this creepy woman walking around,
Oh, right.
who we see once later, not too much later, but just when they sort of first go into the caves and stuff.
Hmm.
And then did I really see her again? Like I thought, like she'd pop up.
I don't remember.
It was a
It's
very,
like
it felt like a
it's
dropped plot line to me.
yeah. Um, I don't know. It's yeah. It seemed weird that they like would go to the trouble of like pointing her out, but then
Yeah, because you get that scare where
it's
she
just
turns and looks at him, and that's kind of it. Uh,
yeah,
I should do something that annoyed me at this early part of the movie. Do you know the boyfriend? Well, not boyfriend, but you know the guy, the bell
yeah.
tower
The
fixer guy.
main guy, yeah,
Him constantly saying, "I'm not coming with you. I'm not going." I just kept rolling my eyes. Of course you're going, because we wouldn't have introduced you
yeah,
if you weren't coming. All right, so shut up.
yeah,
I know it's a weird thing because he's a character in the movie, but I'm just like, you're going to be forced into it somehow by circumstance or whatever else, and of course he is. So yeah,
yeah. I don't know if like that was their idea of like a character trait or something.
yeah.
It's just like, oh, it'd be interesting if he doesn't want to go.
All right. So other than the fact that they get lost in like things that weren't supposed to like be there are there or vice versa, nothing
Mhm.
interesting happens for the next 40 minutes. It's
Yeah.
it's just them. One guy gets claustrophobic. They run into the creepy dude who they said disappeared before, like years ago.
Yeah,
Um,
one of the weird things I thought was like when they first get in there and there's like that kind of like looked like a cult or something was in
mm.
that one room. These people in just like these white robes with like kind of
Yeah, that's what the woman was. She was the head
yeah,
of that cult.
but it like it was so weird because it was just like they just like were there and they just like walked right by him and like they weren't even like trying to be quiet or anything. They're like, oh, look at that, like you know,
Yeah, yeah. The French guy just says, "Oh yeah, you get some weirdos down here sometimes," and then they just
yeah.
walk on.
And like I kept expecting for them to chase after him or to I don't know have some type of more significance.
Yeah. Now the creepy
Uh,
guy they run into the first couple of times is just kind of around.
yeah.
He probably does the most interesting thing though. Later on, when he like just violently kills that one woman that's on the
Oh yeah.
team, like just bashes her head into the ground. Uh, cause sure, cause sure. Uh,
So so like once do you have like a favorite like um either death scene or like weird crazy thing that starts like popping up in the caves or
well, yeah, we're kind of getting there.
okay.
Before her death though, they do find like the crypt, like the hidden crypt of like the guy who should have like decomposed, but is still alive, and she
Yeah.
finds the philosopher's stone. She heals like one of their wounds magically with it, and
Mhm.
all sorts. And but then the cave, the ceiling falls in because there's a trap next to the treasure that the idiots trigger, even though she's screaming at them, "Don't! It's a trap." Uh, and this is where the movie starts to get kind of interesting. Well, not right away, but they have to go deeper. They have to go down like another layer.
Yeah, which is cool, I thought.
And this is where like I'd vaguely heard something. I was like, wait, okay, right, I'm kind of getting what this is now.
Yeah.
This is their take on Dante and the Seven Circles of Hell.
Oh, yeah. I didn't really put that connection together, but I can see that.
Yeah, it's like they're going
Yeah.
deeper, and as they go deeper, weirder and like scarier shit happens.
Yeah.
Um, and it becomes about them dealing with whatever thing they're hiding in their lives that they're not getting. They have to admit what they're
Mhm.
the dark thing from their past that they're feeling guilt over. They have to accept. That's the ultimately the ending point of the movie. But
Yeah.
so I'll admit I can't remember the other characters who died because they're not really developed enough to really, other than the main leader guy who leads them around.
Yeah.
I can't really. I'd love to go. Well, I wouldn't love to go back, but uh, if if I could remember better their characters, if they'd set them up, and I maybe didn't notice it as well, if
Mhm.
they had things that they obviously didn't repent for, and that's why they died.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
But
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, because it starts like setting the fan and whatever, and
Mhm.
the bit that I really liked that really got me into this. This is after the girl had died, which I really liked that just for the the violence really, but
Yeah.
is when they go down another layer and they say something like, "Oh, we must be like 1,000 meters down now,"
Mhm.
like really, insanely deep, and they see light coming from around the corner as if there's
Mhm.
fire, and I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh, this is interesting. Like we're getting to something really cool, possibly, because I'm getting the whole Dante's Inferno thing now, and I'm thinking, oh, what's going on here?" And he goes around and it's a car on fire,
Yeah.
and in this deep dark pit like thousands of meters below the earth,
Yeah.
um, and then it just goes completely ape shit and like sucks that guy in because it's like he in
Yeah.
some ways responsible for the guy to is
It's
like
like burning in the
yeah,
car.
who was
Yeah.
also the guy who told them to go find him at the start. So
Oh yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
this thing in hell is, it actually targeted them and wanted them to come.
Yeah. That was like one of my favorite scenes. Just the it was a really cool visual of him like getting sucked like into the ground, and then it's just like his like legs
Well,
sticking out.
it was the first time we'd seen something that wasn't just rock and darkness.
Right. Exactly. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of getting a little interesting now.
Yeah, that was interesting. This is where it was starting to come together. Admittedly, though, they kind of flunder on it a little bit because when she runs off, like, because the main guy gets hurt a little bit and the stone doesn't work to heal him, so she runs back to the place where she got it, basically,
Mhm.
or I think it's the duplicate place that was underneath because they found like an exact identical room underneath, and
Mhm.
she put the stone in there, and then she came back and she was able to heal him. But on this trip, right, as she was like hitting like the stone people who were trying to attack them. Actually, this is my main complaint for this section of the movie is that I was getting interested in the whole Dante's like circles of hell thing and the idea of them going deeper and having to like look like face the darker sins and all that. But I thought it was a little bit cheapened by having these weird guys in robes like running around scaring them and trying to like grab them.
Yeah, it wasn't really necessary. It felt like at this point you could have just done with, having the weird like ghosts or forces, from their past that are kind of
Yeah,
tormenting them.
I feel like at this point, I feel like this is about the whole movie. Actually, this is one of the changes that I thought they should make. Is
Mhm.
there shouldn't be anything we even see in terms of a presence. It should just be things happening,
Yeah,
kind of like the unseen hand playing with a game of chess with you as you're going down this labyrinth. You know,
yeah,
that's how I felt. It should have been. Well, while she went her way back to put the stone back in, and she said something and read something, mumble jumble. She was muttering things about ancient things and whatnot. She sees the ghost of her dad. Well, I say ghost, but you know what I mean. Like
right.
the,
Manifestation.
the manifestation
Yeah,
of her dad
yeah.
hanging. He committed suicide, and she hugs him, and we hear her apologise for not picking up the phone that night. So
Mhm.
she's been feeling guilty all this time about her dad, and she could have stopped him from committing suicide.
Mhm.
So I guess that's her realising whatever. And she runs back to them, and she somehow just puts her hands and then puts her hands over the wound, and then kisses the guy, and that like completely heals his wound. And I'm not sure why that is.
I don't know. It felt like kind of like a weird like um like fairy tale like kiss from a prince or princess or something to like wake the
I don't.
person.
I think
I
it's
don't
maybe
know.
something to do with realizing what this place is and what the stone actually is. Like her realizing it help. I don't know. I don't quite get that. But this is kind of the point where I'm
Yeah.
kind of thinking, all right, well, this is going to end like every other found footage movie. They're going to
Mhm.
run around. They're all going to die, and we're going to end with the camera lying on the ground as they're all just lying there dead, and something creepy will happen.
Mhm.
Jump scare, boom, credits.
Yeah.
You know. Uh, and they run around, and this is another big problem with this is that every time they're running around in dark and all you see is like blurred light occasionally like moving past, it just you don't really see anything. It just I get bored every time they start running from stuff
Yeah.
because I don't feel like I'm actually getting a real sense of what's going on.
Well, yeah,
uh,
it's not interesting like visually or
yeah, so
yeah.
but they get to like a hole that they're going to jump down, and she says that before they jump, the other two guys are going to have to repent for whatever they regret. And the main guy is like, "Oh well, my brother drowned, and I was coming back from, and I got lost, and he died because of that."
Yeah.
Uh, town's repenting right now for noisy cars outside beeping their horns.
People in this neighborhood, my God.
And the other guy repents for having a kid that he doesn't acknowledge. Sure. Then they jump through the hole, and I'm kind of bored again by this point. Like, some interesting stuff's happened, but then they've been running about and whatnot. And then they find a manhole. And they push it in a little bit, and you see a little bit of like red light, and I'm like, oh, we're getting to the core of hell now. Well, that's what it feels like. But then as they open it a little bit more, I'm like, wait a minute, that looks more like street light.
Yeah.
So the end of the movie is that they actually, like, they push the manhole down to open it, and then they climb up through it, and the gravity like shifts, and they're actually just in Paris, and they're on the road. They've escaped the circles of hell because they've all repented for their sins. Now, that core idea and that ending, I actually really like.
Yeah, no, that it was a cool visual at the end of them, like, like going down, but it being obviously up on the street, and then like I was 100% convinced though that like that as soon as they like got through it, they were gonna get hit by a car or something. Like there's gonna be one last final like surprise or shock moment or something, but they actually were pretty held back with that.
No, I like the ending. I like that core idea. But for me, like, I would have done this movie as in, like, I'd have had people. I would have had all the run around thinking there was, I would take away the claustrophobia and just have the psychological shit get worse and worse as you go deeper.
Yeah.
And I'd focus on that kind of stuff, and it would not be found footage. Seriously, the found footage and the running around from, rock monsters or whatever they were. They look like statues. And then there was the eyes in the hoods.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff just detracted from it, and it just made it much less interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame because it's not altogether bad. There was those few low glimmers of something interesting or something kind of different or like visually cool or something, but it's just kind of way too far in between all the kind of boring or stupid stuff you got to get through.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a really middle of the road movie with some nice ideas, but I just wish they were in a much better movie.
Yeah.
So that's as above, so below. Anything else you'd like to add, Tim, before we get to ratings?
I mean, not really. It's kind of that's another thing too that kind of sucks is like I feel like it's also kind of hard to talk about because it's like if it was outrageously good or outrageously bad, you could get excited and really get into it. But I mean, it is like you said, it's middle of the road. It's it's hard to really like pick out too much.
Yeah.
And like
really, we said, the problem with the first half or so of it is that a lot of that just feels like nothing really happens other than the same stuff that happens in every movie like this.
Yeah, it's like what can you really like talk about or go into? It's nothing.
So
no.
No. I'll say also the ending. I like that one random guy from the French side of the team survives, and it's not just the two main people.
Oh, yeah.
That was at least nice. Just it was something different.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's as above, so below. So biscuits out of 10.
Yeah. Again, like you said, middle of the road. I was thinking like just straight down the middle. Give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I might stretch to 5.5, but I mean, clearly, I'm. It's not exactly an enthusiastic
right
response either way. So that's as above, so below. So yeah, let us know what you think of the movie, guys. You can tweet at us at meld_fuzz. Email us meldfuzz@gmail.com. Of course, you're on YouTube. Just tell us in the comments below and stuff. Yeah, you can find us in places. Tim, where can people find you?
Any social media stuff is at Tim Vargulish. And for comic book stuff, you can check out facebook.com/goatmancomics.
Cool. You can find me on Twitter and other social media places at Wibble89. You can also, of course, find me in other shows here on the Melfuzz network, such as the regular movie stuff, 1.21 gigawatts. You can also get the DC Comics podcast, Comics from the Multiverse, every week. And we also have all the TV reviews we do all throughout the week on the Melfuzz TV YouTube channel. But of course, everything's also on your iTunes and your podcatchers and your things.
Yep.
Some of them are on Stitcher too, because why not? Mm-hmm. But yeah, that about wraps us up, guys. Check out our friends over at Ronin's Reviews. They do written content. They do some of the same movies we do. They also do albums and concerts and stuff, so check them out. There'll be a link in the description for those. And that's pretty much it. And the only thing left for me to really say is help out the show. Like and subscribe on YouTube, or 5 stars on iTunes, or whatever it is. Helps us out a lot. We appreciate it. Stay tuned for the music at the end, because you get a drawing from Tim. He likes to do a little bit of art for each movie now.
I will say, actually, I really like the one I did for this one. I usually don't like what I do, but I was like, this ain't too bad.
Oh, well, his ego, of course, is inflated, so by all means, tweet at him and tell him it's terrible. I'm thoroughly in support of that. But no, that's us, guys. That's been Screams After Midnight, episode 61. Thank you very much for watching or listening. We'll see you next time. Don't shit in the dark.